Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberker. The UK and Türkiye have announced plans to start negotiations on a new free trade agreement. Both countries have been important trade partners since 1995, when the first customs agreement came into place. Since then, a lot has happened, including Britain's exit from the EU, a global pandemic, and new emerging economic blocs. But trade between the countries has only increased. The new FTA is said to be an update on the existing agreement, which only covered goods. With the UK being the second largest service provider in the world, a modernized version of the deal might include an agreement on services, data and digital industries. The new deal is expected to come into effect at the beginning of next year. The two nations also enjoy strong defense ties. Turkiye is one of the main partners of the Airbus military aircraft built in the UK, while Ankara is a priority market for the UK arms unit. And to discuss the modernization of the free trade agreement between Turkey and the UK, joining me now from Istanbul is Ozan Özkural. He's a managing partner at Tanto Capital Partners. And from London, Maurizio Zanardi. He is the head of School of Economics at University of Surrey. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk, and it's good to have you on the program. So, Ozan, let me begin with you. What would a modernized free trade agreement mean for both countries' economies?
Look, obviously it's a clear positive. I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that this is an agreement to expand the initial rollover of the free trade agreement, which I think under Article 7 was supposed to take 2 years to start. Now we are starting with a bit of a delay, but we are starting. So once this takes place, I anticipate that the previous free trade agreement, which was somewhat limited in its scope, will include financial services, agriculture, the digital economy. So therefore, I think we're at the verge of having a real, substantial, and powerful free trade agreement between two countries.
So Maurizio, could you talk to us about the nature of bilateral trade ties between the UK and Turkey? How have trade ties endured a global economic slowdown, rising inflation, geopolitical shifts, and uncertainty that is looming over the world due to Russia's attack on Ukraine?
Well, you mentioned just a few things that we should keep in mind in this conversation. I think this is an important step in strengthening the economic relationship between the two countries, and in particular, the modernization of a trade agreement. When we think historically of trade agreement is to remove import tariffs, but this is not anymore the main aspect of a trade agreement, because other sectors like digital services, agriculture are at the forefront of the policymakers on both sides of this negotiation, as it should be, because that's where the big gains can be taken for both countries.
So, Ozan, what investment opportunities does Turkey offer to Britain? Will this upgraded agreement create a more competitive environment?
I think the upgraded agreement will create a better and more clear framework for investment to flow to both directions, both from Turkey to UK and UK to Turkey. There are certain areas and certain sectors that I think may be at the forefront of this. Energy and power is one. Defense is another one. Right now we are hopefully making progress in agreeing with Rolls-Royce about the provision of engines for the Turkish fighter jets. But also in a world, in a geopolitical scenario where there will be likely divergence between the West and China, Turkey is an important hub and will become even a more important hub vis-a-vis allowing the Western countries and UK in particular to provide a hedge against over-interdependence in Chinese supply chains.
So we know, Maurizio, that defense cooperation between the two countries is worth around $135 million and will continue to grow apart from the customs union. Are there any particular sectors which Turkey has laid an eye on?
Well, I think that in the current situation, many countries, including Turkey, are really looking at the digital side and investment. And that's where an improved agreement can really help both countries, because as a matter of fact, at the moment, Turkey is not a top destination for exports. There is actually a trade negative balance from the side of the UK. We import more from Turkey than what we export. But because, as was mentioned before, of some disengagement with the Far East, what's going going on with Russia and China, then Turkey could really emerge as one place for investment. At the moment, the amount of FDI, foreign direct investment, from the UK to Turkey is small, definitely smaller than what the size of the Turkish economy would allow for gaining economies of scale from the British producers. So indeed, there are significant gains that can be achieved. Everything rests on the details. The devil is in the details, because the flow of capital, the flow of resources, it really depends on how this agreement, are we talking of a free trade agreement? Yes, most likely, then not a customs union, a different world, but different regulatory environment that make all the difference for multinational firms and the fragmentation of production across countries.
So, Ozan, what are some sticking points that stands in the way of a new deal? I mean, how will it be different from the previous ones?
I think, well, first of all, it will be different because it will be a much more comprehensive framework and structure. And I do expect this to take some time. So I think it is unrealistic to expect the real FTA between Turkey and the United Kingdom to happen quickly. Also conscious of the fact that in Turkey, we will still have local election cycles. In the UK, we're going to have general elections at play. So therefore, I think it's not a sticking point. I think a challenge will be to execute this and negotiate certain parts of this free trade agreement within the framework, the time frame of elections on both countries.
So, Maurizio, how has Brexit added to Britain's drive to pursue independent trade deals with non-EU nations so far?
Oh, that's been an important political objective. There is a lot of politics in it, sometimes even more than economics, and that's why the United Kingdom may also sign up on free trade agreements that have more of a signaling effect and not a real economic return, because of the potential of what it can bring. And that, I believe, is also the case with Turkey. I mean, Turkey has a customs union with the European Union, therefore the United Kingdom until recently was part of this. Now, what is interesting is that, yes, an FTA is somewhat shallower in terms of some regulatory aspect, but the ambition here is to include the sectors like agriculture, like services, that are completely excluded from the customs union between Turkey and Europe. And that's where there are political and, as we were saying before, economic gains from the side of the UK to score and really showcase that Brexit does work for the interest of the country.
So, Ozan, could Ankara's re-engagement with the European Union have a positive impact on bilateral ties with London, or it's just irrelevant now?
Look, Turkey is increasing realignments with a lot of its neighbors, including the European Union. Also, the East is ultimately beneficial for all parties concerned. We live in a global village. We live in a very interesting time period where certain alliances, structures that have been set in place since the end of World War II are coming under significant pressure. These are socio-economic geopolitical pressures. So within this context, a Turkiye that has better or fluid relations with all of its neighbors, including the European Union, is a positive because we are all interdependent amongst countries.
So if I'm not mistaken, Maurizio, current trade volume between the two countries stand at £23.5 billion. So does this live up to the two countries' expectations as well as their potential?
No, I think there is much bigger room to increase the volumes. However, as we were saying, the increase in the volume mostly can come from those sectors that are not currently covered by the trade deal. And in this sense, the triad, the European Union, United Kingdom, and Turkey, and how this is going to play out will be a very interesting scenario, because in a way, notwithstanding, as we were saying before, the electoral calendars in both countries, for sure the calendar of a possible deeper re-engagement of the UK with the EU are even further down. And that's why then Turkey is a very interesting, FTA with Turkey is a very interesting opportunity for both sides, because it could strengthen the negotiations of both sides when discussing in Brussels, so for future development on that side of the world.
So if I understand correctly, Ozan, there is a trade imbalance between the two countries against Turkiye and in favor of the United Kingdom. How can that be ironed out now?
I think it's all about increasing flows of higher value-added products. also including some flows around the services sector, and effectively having a more balanced trade agreement where Turkey also gets to benefit as equally as possible within the deepening ties within the EU. And, to a certain extent, I think this will happen because now we are living in an environment where both Turkey and the United Kingdom make up the two opposing neighbors around the massive trading bloc that is the EU. So I believe, Ayşe, that we have to focus on more innovative products, as innovation, and Turkey's hopefully increasing status as an innovation hub should actually add to alleviating the current trade imbalances.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.